Today we're going to look at our SR1 standalone card reader. This is what you would use for maybe a perimeter entry door. Maybe it's got a mag lock on it, a door strike, some kind of automatic opener, something like that. Somewhere you're not going to put the standalone Sapphire card reader or Nova or something like that. So you actually have a card reader and a controller panel. Now this is still standalone. This does not run back and talk to the computer. You'll still program this lock with a handheld just like you would a Sapphire lock or something like that. But let's look at the parts we have here first. Both of these boxes actually come in a brown box to the site. I've just opened the brown box and pulled both these out. The smaller box here is our card reader. I'm gonna pull that out and show you. This one is a surface mount card reader. We also have a flush mount that fits in a single gang box if you want. But this is our card reader and this is our mounting plate. This particular one actually has BLE mobile capability. So we've got our Bluetooth antenna here. It's kind of like a shark fin that would actually mount back into the frame, where the frame will be right here and this plate would mount against it. I don't have a big enough hole on my mount today, so I'm not gonna install this. I'm just gonna use the plate itself. But if I was gonna use this, I would take and plug this little cable into the 4-pin port on the reader, right there, and then mount. I would have the plate mounted and I would hook the top and swing the bottom in and run my screw in. It's the only difference in what I'm doing here today. I'm not using a Bluetooth antenna. However, I always recommend you order these with Bluetooth because even if they're not using it now, they may down the road. And I'll save a lot of time, a lot of money down the road. So I'm gonna set the antenna to the side. I'm just gonna look at the lock itself. It's got a little warning on it. Hey, you know, incorrect connections may damage the unit, stuff like that. Refer to the install guide. Always refer to your install guide. So I've got my reader, I've got my mounting screw. Let's see what's in the other box. All right, this box has our actual controller in it. We do have a little decorative ring on it because this is the surface mount version of the box. I can order it as flush mount, but for the surface mount, we had ordered the stainless steel ring to go on it. It would go over the box just to cover it and make it look a little nicer. But I don't need that today, so I'm gonna set that to the side. Inside the package here, we have the Allen wrench that's needed, along with 4 wire nuts. I'm gonna take this and just go ahead and open the box. Just 4 quick screws to take out, and then we'll see what's inside. All right, now that we have those screws out, I can set that cover plate to the side for the moment. And you see inside here, this is actually our controller. Little bitty circuit board, got the power unit and controller and all underneath it here. We've got connections on the side labeled 1 through 6. That's where our card reader connects. We've got our relay wires here, the red, blue, and black. The blue is normally open, black is normally closed, and red is common. A little label on the wire for you to make it easy. We've got our power connection here for the incoming power to power the control board itself. They're just 2 white wires. This is auto sensing on the positive and negative. It's 12 volt or 24 volt DC. And it is auto sensing, so it doesn't matter which one hooks up there. One thing I do want to point out though, this is real important. Run a 4 conductor from your power supply to this controller. 2 of the wires will be used to power the unit through these white wires. The other 2 will be for your relay. The reason you want to do that instead of just doing everything off of 2 wires, I know it's possible to do it off 2 wires. I'm recommending against it, and here's why. Anytime you have a power fail or the fire alarm goes off and cuts power to that lock, it will cut power to this control board. You would lose your date and time out of it, and then any time-based credentials will no longer work. That's a huge problem, so we want to power this with a 4 conductor. So I'm going to take and just go ahead and hook up the board first. Remember I said we've got these 2 white wires are my power wires? Well, on my little demo mount here, we've got red wire for positive. I'm just going to connect that to one of the whites. Throw my wire nut back on there real quick. My white wire here is what I've got for negative. I know this is kind of a crude mount, but it shows you what you need to know. So I've got my power connections hooked up. I don't have power on the unit yet. I've got it unplugged, but that's my power connections. I also have a little ground wire here I want to connect up just to help in case of any surges or anything like that. See, I connected it on. If you had this box, you'd actually see that strap inside the box in there. I just don't have this box. I've got another, so I've hooked it up to ground. And then I've got my relays to hook up. I'm going to be using common and normally open. So I'm going to cut this black wire just so it doesn't short anything. So I'm using my red and blue, red being common, blue being normally open. And I've got my relay wire here. If I wire all this up and test it right here in a few minutes, you should see this green light on top come on, as long as I do everything right. So I'll wire up my relay wires there, and this one blue wire is kind of short on me, unfortunately. Connect it up. So I have my incoming power and my relay wired up. Only thing I have left is my actual reader. So I've got a 6-conductor shielded wire run here from my reader, and I'm going to connect that on 1 through 6. Now, to be completely honest, it doesn't matter which wire goes where as long as they're the same on the reader and this control board. I do recommend coming up with a standard. That way you always know what it is, no matter what reader you're at, anything, whoever in your company is working on it. Try to always do it the same. 1 and 2 are the power connections that shows on the back of the reader here. So 1 is my positive, 6 volts. 2 is my ground. And then 3 and 4 are transmit, and 5 and 6 are receive. So figure out a standard for your company and wire them all up that way. I'm just putting white on 3, green on 4, and then I'm going to do blue on 5 and brown on 6. And again, like I said, it doesn't really matter which one's where, as long as we do it the same on both ends. So I'm going to leave this sitting right here, and I'm going to wire up my reader so I can make sure they're the same. These 2 items are actually probably going to be pretty close at your site. The card reader is going to be, right outside the door, and your control box can either be surface mounted or flush mounted, and it's probably going to be just right inside the door within a few feet, just probably recessed into the wall with a blank cover plate or something like that on it. So however you want to do it, it does need to be fairly close to the door, and you want to make it accessible, because anytime you need to change the programming on it, you're going to have to pull that cover plate off and get to the USB port here on the control board. So just keep that in mind. You could hide this away up above a drop tile ceiling. Probably really don't want to do that, because then it's going to be hard to get to. Anytime you may need to reset time and date because the building lost power and you didn't have a backup battery on your power supply like you're supposed to, something like that. Keep those things in mind. So I'm going to put my reader on my mount here. Make sure I hook the top, swing the bottom in. It's got a little Phillips head screw that goes in the bottom of it. And again, this could be a flush mount reader if I wanted. I'm just doing a surface mount here to show you. So I've got my reader on there. My control board is all wired up. I'm just going to slide it back into this housing. And the way it stays in the box is it's got a little mounting plate hanging off the bottom with 2 holes in it. You line those up with the bottom holes of your cover plate and run those screws in. So I'm going to just grab a screw, line everything up. And take that Allen wrench, run that screw in. I'm gonna do one more at the top right now just for show. You would want to put all of them in, but I'm just trying to show you how it works. I'm gonna take and power up my unit here. So I'm gonna take and plug it in the wall where I have power. Everything should power right up. And I've got to grab a test credential and test on this. So let me grab one of those real fast. I have one. When I present it to the reader, we see I get my flashing green light telling me that it's unlocked, and you saw my relay actually did trip my LED. Imagine this green LED at the top here is your door you're unlocking. Read my credential, it unlocks the door. So this is our SR1 controller, card reader, and this will be our door lock. Everything's working just as it should. So thank you for joining us today.